everyone, welcome to ADRA Asia's podcast, While on Earth.
Happy, efficient and productive.
I'm very passionate about young people.
Currently leading the disaster risk management unit department.
Overnight, it's a long process.
Hello everyone, welcome again to While on Earth, the podcast run by ADRA Asia. Here in our little studio, we have a special guest today and her name is Virginia. Virginia, who are you?
Who am I? Wow.
Yes.
Straight into it. So I'm the country director for ADRA Timor-Leste. I've been in ADRA for almost 12 years.
Okay.
And I am, I guess, a Seventh-day Adventist Christian who loves to serve where God calls.
Right, and where did your journey in ADRA begin?
Actually began in ADRA Samoa. It was a brand new office and they needed some administration and finance support. In my previous life I was an accountant, so my pre-ADRA days, so that was a good fit.
Do you see a lot of similarities between Samoa and Timor, or are they very different culturally?
They're quite different culturally, similar in terms of small island economy. Timor-Leste is bigger than Samoa from a population point of view and closer to Asia, so that gives us advantage. But Timor has a trauma past that's very recent, so that influences the culture. And also Timor has some quite high levels of malnutrition, which you don't see in other parts of the Pacific.
Wow, okay. So Virginia, tell us, what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about seeing people reach their potential.
Okay.
And so by people, I mean people in communities, people on the staff, to see often people can do more than what they think. And so to be part of their journey, to inspire people to be what they can be, to be part of taking away some barriers that might be stopping them, around barriers around poverty, access to basic services, and so and even barriers within our own staff of education and things like that we can really help support people. I really like that.
So how do you define that potential, right? So because if you take let's start with the staff, right? Before we go into the community. You may see his or her potential, they might not.
No.
How do you go about inspiring that and defining it together?
I guess it's just a matter, for me, it's encouraging the person where they're at, to affirm the positive things that they're doing already, to make performance reviews about where they see themselves in 5 years and what do they want for their families, for their careers, how they want to develop, and to just walk. So basically ask the question, get to know the staff. That's the first point, and then walk together.
What have you seen to be the challenges in reaching someone's potential?
Some of it's actually just personal mindset. They might not be confident enough to reach for something else. They might just, I don't know, feel the barriers of time or resource in some way. And some of it is just about understanding what opportunities there are. And so for some, it's just about presenting them with opportunities and then they run with it themselves.
Do you see culture as playing as a barrier in people reaching their full potential?
I think in every culture there are societal norms that make us think we should be a certain way. And part of reaching your potential is to just imagine what God has put in you in terms of your passion, in terms of your experience so far, in terms of opportunities that you have, and to have the courage to follow them. Sometimes that might challenge a cultural norm, maybe rising more quickly to a leadership role when maybe it's normal for culture from an age point of view is more the indicator. But there are other things. In the end, I think it's not about culture but about who you identify with as a person. And as an Adventist Christian, my identity is not in who I am. It's not in who I want, in what I can do or my role. It's the fact that God made me and created me and is my Father in heaven, and I can do whatever He has called me to do because He equips me for that. But that is a concept you can only get through, I guess, to Christians, and so you have to go a circuitous route to get that. But so I don't know if I answered your question about culture, but I think in any culture we can be held back or we can soar, and it's up to us.
That's interesting, because sometimes now you're from New Zealand.
Yes.
I'm from an Asian culture.
Yes.
We tend to believe that maybe the Asian cultures hold us back more than more Western or the culture in New Zealand. Do you find that to be true?
What I find to be true is that sometimes in New Zealand culture or in Western culture, we are more open to opportunities. We don't necessarily let our family decide for us. So in some cultures that are more connected to their family, which has amazing benefits, but sometimes then they can be tied to what their family expectation are, which can hold a person back. But I've seen some really incredible people from every culture, including Asian culture, where they have taken their passion and they've worked within that. That doesn't mean to say that they're negating culture or going against culture, but it does mean that they have the courage to go where God leads and to fulfill their potential.
Right. So moving into the office and the staff that you work with, right? So obviously there is a culture in the office.
Yes.
And you have a big role to play in influencing this culture. What are the cultural traits that you try to establish within your office to create that enabling environment that people could actually reach their full potential?
I think, I like to think that we have a culture where we care about each other. We start each morning with prayer. We make sure we check in with people. Is anybody sick? Family, kids? Is anyone travelling today? Those kinds of things. Do we care about each other? And then when we have a safe environment, then we can dare to dream, and we can dare to try things and dare to fail and dare to win and have success. And I think so first is this culture of caring about each other, and then the other thing is this open culture, that it's okay to make a suggestion even if it might differ from your supervisors. And that is very countercultural. But having this place and space where it's open and it's okay, and it doesn't have to be threatening.
Right.
And so that's what I try and bring. It's a process, and you'll have to ask my staff if it's successful.
Right.
Or not.
Yes. We had one of your staff on the show, Lena, who has now left us, but I think she'll confirm what you're saying. Have you ever been disappointed that you look at a person and you say, I see so much of potential in this person, but they never reached it?
Yes.
Have you been?
Yes.
Okay.
And
how do you deal with the situation?
That
like
breaks
that?
my heart. Yeah. And I'm sad about that. Actually, it makes me sad, which is how come I know it's my passion, because the opposite also has a negative effect. And so, but in the end, people make their choice.
Right.
Like you say, I have a role to play in having creating an enabling environment, but in the end, reaching your potential is up to you. And people make decisions and we don't control them. God gave us free will to choose His way or not, and in the same way we can't control other people. We can just offer what we have take it or leave it, and then but sometimes it's not easy, and there's maybe a grief involved if you've worked with someone for a while and then something happens, and but also I can be proud of a lot of things that our staff do, and I'm very proud of them.
Right, so that was actually my next question. Have you ever had a situation where someone has surpassed your expectations, and do you care to share an example?
Yeah, I guess we had one of our staff who within the first couple of weeks made a very bad decision. He created an enemy of a whole project team. So he had just come into the office.
Common enemy.
Yeah. And then he upset the whole project team of about 15 people.
Okay.
And so he's been in ADRA for 2 weeks. And it's just like, okay. But we decided we would deal with this. So we went through this long process. So I spoke with him and gave him the opportunity, and it was up to him at that point whether he accepted the challenge to change. This is not how we behave in ADRA, this is not what we do. And then we gave him the opportunity to apologise to the whole team. And so we brought the whole team in, and we left him out of the room for a bit, and we talked to the team, and the team could tell us how they felt.
Right.
And so a bit with this behaviour of this guy. And so we heard them. Then we brought him in, and he got a quick summary, not the full thing, because that was too much. Yeah. So a quick summary, and then he apologised to everyone. And since then, he has been a valued member of staff and proven himself committed to ADRA values. And I am just so thankful that he had it in him to admit that actually he went about it the wrong way, and that he was willing to change. And so I'm proud of him and our team for accepting the apology, and then now they work together fine, no problem.
How do you balance caring for others while also spending some time on self-care and your own journey in life?
Okay.
And reaching your potential?
Yeah, so I guess it can be a little bit difficult, the juggling act that we all do when we have to care for others. But I think for me, to be able to do it, it can only come from God's strength, not from my own. I think the times when I found it most difficult is when I've realised that I'm trying to do it myself. But when I kind of relax into what God has done, and also accept my own failures, and bring my concerns, my worries about the office or whatever to God, then that gives me strength. And then being really intentional about keeping Sabbath my way, and really being honest about what I need. I have a couple of support people who I regularly check in with to make sure that I'm being honest about myself, and I think that really helps bring perspective when I spiral into some negative thinking or unhelpful ways of dealing with things. That external person that I've built a relationship with and trust really helps me keep things in balance.
Moving a little bit towards the community piece, and not to spend too much of time on that, because I think there's a lot of value in what you said, and I don't want to distract the audience from that piece, but in terms of the community, we have a very scientific approach. Programmatically, we work on all of these things, and you don't necessarily have to have, let's say, a passion to actually analyze scientifically what would actually work. But what are the advantages of actually being passionate about seeing the full potential of the community, and where does it play out in the project cycle?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, and I'm glad you asked, because it comes back to the ADRA value of compassion. Like, you can technically write an amazing proposal that's really going to help a community, and you can involve the community in the design of that. But if you have true compassion on them, and if you really care about them, you are open to adaptive management, to when things, you start to implement the project and you hear community feedback, hey, actually this is not working how we imagined, our assumptions might be a bit off. But to have the courage to then say, hey, this isn't working, let's adapt. And I think that's, if you care enough about the community, you want to adapt because you want what's best for them. You don't want to complete the project and tick a box, you want what's best for them. And so if the project, the way it was designed, needs some tweaking along the way, then let's do that. Because the most important thing is not completing a project with the targets on time, blah. It is making a difference for the people that we serve.
How do you go through the administrative challenges of making that change?
Yeah.
Donor requirements and reports and all of these things.
Yeah.
Isn't it just easier to do what's planned and then say, well, next project we'll deal with it?
And so that's the difference between passion and technical thing. Yes, of course, technically, much easier to just do it and adjust next time. But if you have the passion, you'll find a way. And most donors will, and most project designs don't need to be changed radically. Sometimes it's just the approach that needs to adjust. One of the things that we like to talk to our staff about is that we work alongside communities. We're not telling them what to do. We're not saying, hey, you should farm in this way because it's better. We're saying, hey, you know, how can we help? What are the challenges? Here's some different techniques you want to try. Let's do some comparison plots. Like, let's work alongside our teams and not come in from a position where you think you know best, because actually we don't know everything, and so this is where the passion comes in. And so I think having the courage to reflect and then adjust your approach based on real-time feedback is really important. And usually changing an approach doesn't require donor too much effort from the donors, as long as your overall outcome is still the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess if you do it, even though sometimes the donor also goes through this period of stress to acknowledge a change, I guess at the end of the day, when the project is getting done, I think the donors would also appreciate that, isn't it?
In the end, we do a project because we want to have impact on the people that we serve. We're not doing it just because it gives us a job to do and we can turn up to the office and do a job. Oh, good, go us. No, it's about really caring for the people that we serve and having an impact. And if we're not, then what? I don't know. For me, it would be hard if it didn't have a purpose behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
One more question.
Sure.
If you had a superpower, what would it be and what would you use it for?
So I couldn't decide between being invisible, so I could go into a room and hear conversations that I might...
Scary.
Yes. That might be helpful. Or understanding every language so that wherever I am, I can always understand.
Right. Maybe a combination of the two
Maybe
would
two.
work. Yeah. Virginia, you've always been an inspiration. Thank you very much for taking time to be on the show, and I hope we can have you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and until next time, goodbye.